What truly makes a person happy, and why are we always looking in the wrong places? Have you ever thought that once you have more money, a better job, or the perfect relationship, you'll finally be happy? But why do those things, once achieved, only bring fleeting satisfaction? Could it be that we've been searching outward, while the answer lies deep within? Many people spend their whole lives chasing happiness and still feel empty, while those who live quietly by simple principles often discover profound peace. What do they know that we don't? A 2,000-year-old philosophy is quietly healing the modern world, but most of us are missing it. When life gets chaotic and overwhelming, we often turn to the latest advice, life hacks, or technology to fix ourselves. And yet, paradoxically, it is an ancient philosophy, Stoicism, that holds some of the most practical, powerful, and enduring solutions. The strange thing is, what Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca wrote centuries ago still speaks directly to our modern struggles. You may have heard their words, but have you ever truly listened? 3 small habits practiced daily by Stoics and why they could completely transform your life. You don't need to be a hermit philosopher to apply Stoic wisdom to your everyday life. In fact, simple acts like laughing more, walking in nature, or waking up early are profound Stoic practices in disguise. The 3 habits explored in this journey aren't just healthy lifestyle tips, they're foundational pillars for a life of strength, resilience, and true joy. Are you ready to discover each habit and transform your life from the inside out? Laugh more. In a world driven by urgency, ambition, and relentless pursuit of success, we often forget to pause, let alone laugh. We wear our seriousness like a badge of honor, confusing tension with discipline and equating stress with progress. But buried beneath the weight of deadlines, digital alerts, and daily pressures lies one of the most powerful tools for well-being and inner resilience: laughter. Laughter, at its core, is not just a spontaneous reaction to humor, it is a deeply human expression of purpose. Ask yourself, when was the last time you laughed so hard it brought tears to your eyes? Not a stifled chuckle or a polite smile, but a genuine, body-shaking laugh that cleared your mind and lifted your spirit? For many of us, that moment feels like a distant memory. We've conditioned ourselves to treat joy as a distraction, something we'll return to once we've handled life. But Stoicism, a philosophy often misunderstood as stern or emotionless, tells us otherwise. The Stoics believed in emotional clarity, not emotional suppression. They taught that while we cannot always control what happens to us, we can absolutely control how we respond. That response, they argued, is where our true power lies. In this space between stimulus and reaction, we find freedom, and in that freedom, there is room even in hardship for laughter. Epictetus famously said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our view of them." This quote may seem austere, but within it lies a liberating truth. Our interpretation shapes our experience. If we can shift our perspective, even slightly, we can reduce the suffering we attach to life's inevitable difficulties. Laughter is one such shift. It doesn't deny the existence of pain, it simply refuses to be crushed by it. Modern science supports what the Stoics intuitively understood. Laughter is medicine, both psychological and physiological. When we laugh, our brain releases endorphins, the body's natural feel-good chemicals that alleviate pain and elevate mood. Cortisol levels, the primary stress hormone, decrease. Blood vessels relax, increasing blood flow and reducing blood pressure. The immune system strengthens. Muscle tension melts away. Even our brain's reward center lights up, offering a brief escape from worry. Yet despite these benefits, laughter remains undervalued. Our culture glorifies busyness, equating exhaustion with worthiness. We chase productivity and perfection but neglect playfulness and presence. We overwork, underrest, and forget that joy is a necessity, not a luxury. The Stoics knew better. While they prized reason and virtue, they did not reject joy. In fact, they considered tranquility a deep, abiding peace to be the highest good. And tranquility does not exclude laughter, it invites it. When we laugh, we disrupt our automatic patterns of stress and reactivity. We soften, we connect, we come alive. Consider laughter therapy, now used in hospitals and wellness centers worldwide. Patients battling chronic pain, depression, and even cancer engage in laughter exercises to help improve mood, strengthen resilience, and alleviate suffering. Remarkably, even forced laughter, laughing on purpose without a humorous trigger, offers the same benefits as spontaneous laughter. Why? Because the body doesn't care whether the laugh is genuine. It responds to the action, not the reason. And often, what begins as performative becomes real. This beautifully aligns with Stoic practice. Just as we train ourselves to practice gratitude, humility, or courage, we can train ourselves to laugh. It becomes an intentional habit, a conscious part of our emotional fitness. It reminds us, joy is a skill, not just a reaction. And what about humor in times of pain? Surely that's inappropriate, or is it? The Stoics wouldn't see humor as avoidance but as adaptation. Marcus Aurelius wrote frequently about the unpredictable nature of life and the people in it. He prepared himself daily for rudeness, chaos, and disappointment, but he did so with compassion and acceptance, not with bitterness. That mindset, that ability to rise above pettiness, makes space for humor. It gives us the clarity to see the absurdities of life and laugh at them rather than be tormented by them. Life is full of absurdities. From autocorrect fails to spilled coffee. From missed trains to awkward small talk. Our days are littered with moments that could break us or make us smile. The Stoic approach invites us to choose the latter. Instead of reacting with irritation, pause, laugh at the awkwardness, the unexpected, the imperfection. When we do this, we release tension and regain control over our internal world. And there's more. Laughter connects us. It bridges divides and creates bonds faster than any speech or strategy. When we laugh with others, walls come down. We communicate trust, warmth, and shared humanity. In a world so often fractured by differences, laughter reminds us of what unites us. Marcus Aurelius emphasized that we are part of a greater whole, that our purpose includes service and connection. Laughter, then, becomes not just personal healing but communal harmony. Learning to laugh at ourselves is perhaps the most Stoic habit of all. When we embrace our flaws, our forgetfulness, our humanity, we stop fearing judgment. We become more honest, more open, more resilient. Instead of being paralyzed by embarrassment, we grow stronger through self-compassion. We no longer need to appear perfect. We are content with being real. So how do we practice this in real life? Begin small. Start your day with something joyful, a funny video, a comic, or a light-hearted podcast. Seek out people who make you laugh. Create space in your life for play. Reflect on your day and look for one moment that made you smile, even if it was ridiculous. And when things go wrong, and they will choose to respond with grace and a grin. Laughing doesn't solve every problem, but it certainly changes how we experience them. Let us also recognize that there will be days when laughter feels impossible during grief, trauma, or deep sorrow. And that's okay. The Stoics never demanded constant positivity. What they taught was endurance, presence, and the wisdom to return to joy when ready. In dark moments, even remembering that joy still exists can be healing. A small laugh can be the thread that pulls us back into the light. In the end, laughter is more than an emotional release, it's an act of defiance. It's our way of saying, this world may be chaotic, but I am still free. I still choose how to live. It's a declaration of agency, of presence, of lightness. And in the Stoic tradition, that's not just allowed, it's encouraged. So laugh more, not because life is always funny, but because your spirit deserves relief. Because joy is not childish, it's courageous. And because even in the hardest moments, you have the power to choose your perspective. Let your laughter be your strength, gentle, honest, and wise. Laughter, when examined through the lens of human evolution, has always served as more than a mere reflex to humor. Anthropologists and neuroscientists suggest that laughter predates language and emerged as a crucial social glue in early human tribes. It was a mechanism to signal safety, establish trust, and reinforce community bonds. In a group setting, laughter diffused tension, encouraged cohesion, and even protected against threats by strengthening interpersonal connections. From this perspective, laughed. And yet, in our fast-paced modern existence, many of us struggle to find moments of genuine amusement. We become entangled in responsibilities, buried under stress, and consumed by the pressure to perform. In this daily grind, laughter becomes a casualty of ambition. We relegate joy to weekends, vacations, or, once things calm down, a time that, if we're honest, rarely comes. This is precisely why laughter must be intentionally reclaimed, especially in environments that are chronically serious. Imagine boardrooms where levity is welcomed, homes where laughter echoes through hallways, or schools where humor is used as a tool for learning rather than distraction. These are not trivial shifts. They are cultural revolutions rooted in the Stoic principle of mastering one's inner environment. Marcus Aurelius never explicitly wrote about laughter the way modern comedians might. But his meditations are saturated with reminders to observe, to detach, and to rise above pettiness. What is laughter, if not a form of philosophical detachment? A gentle way of saying, I see the absurdity, and I choose joy over anger. In this light, the act of laughter becomes an existential affirmation. Life is strange, unpredictable, and sometimes painful, and yet, I laugh, not because everything is perfect, but because laughter is my rebellion against despair. We can also examine the cultural dimension of laughter. Different societies express humor in diverse ways, shaped by language, history, and shared experience. Yet across cultures, laughter is universal. A child in Vietnam and a grandfather in Finland may not speak the same language, but they both understand laughter. This universality points to something fundamental, an emotional bridge that transcends difference and affirms common humanity. In therapeutic settings, laughter has now become a formal intervention. Laughter yoga, pioneered in India by Dr. Madan Kataria, combines breathing techniques with intentional laughter exercises. The results have been staggering: reduced symptoms of depression, enhanced oxygen intake, and even improved social functioning in patients with chronic illness. All this from the simple act of laughing, even without a joke. What's more, neuroscience reveals that laughter engages multiple areas of the brain. The limbic system processes the emotional component. The prefrontal cortex evaluates context and social meaning. Even motor regions coordinate the physical response. This means that laughter is not just a trivial escape, it's a full brain, full body exercise in joy and social intelligence. Children laugh hundreds of times a day. Adults? Barely a dozen, if that. What happens between childhood and adulthood that numbs our instinct to delight? The answer lies in layers of expectation, trauma, conformity, and fear. As we grow, we are taught to be serious, to act our age, to suppress what is spontaneous in favor of what is socially acceptable. But the Stoic understands that the goal is not suppression, it is liberation from illusion. And one of the greatest illusions is that seriousness equals importance. To reclaim laughter is to reclaim a part of our most authentic selves. Let us not forget the psychological impact of humor in conflict resolution. In difficult conversations, a well-placed humorous observation can shift tension into curiosity, soften entrenched positions, and create an atmosphere of mutual respect. This isn't manipulation, it's emotional intelligence. It's knowing when to pierce the balloon of ego with the needle of humor. Not to humiliate, but to harmonize. In leadership, laughter fosters trust. In parenting, it builds bridges. In education, it invites engagement. And in personal development, it reminds us not to take ourselves too seriously. The Stoic who can laugh at himself is the one who has truly begun to master pride. So, how do we incorporate more laughter into our lives without forcing it? Start by creating a joy ritual. Perhaps it's a daily moment of silliness with your pet, watching a short comedy clip, or revisiting an inside joke with a friend. The ritual isn't about entertainment, it's about grounding yourself in the ability to find lightness. Surround yourself with people who remind you to laugh. Not those who distract you from your purpose, but those who help you carry it with a lighter step. Read literature that makes you smile. Watch films that rekindle your sense of wonder. And above all, notice life's unintentional comedy, the dropped coffee, the awkward encounters, the cosmic ironies that make us all humble. Build what psychologists call a humor mindset. Begin looking at life through the lens of comic perspective. When frustrations arise, ask, "What about this will be funny later?" Often, that simple reframing breaks the spell of negativity. From a Stoic standpoint, laughter is deeply aligned with amor fati, love of fate. When we accept everything that happens, even the absurd, even the painful, we open the door to joy. We stop resisting life's unpredictable flow and start dancing with it even if we stumble. In closing, to laugh more is not to diminish seriousness, it is to infuse it with soul. It is to say, I see the suffering, but I will not drown in it. I will rise not in denial, but in defiance. That is the kind of laughter the Stoics would endorse. Not mindless giggling, but mindful joy. Not escape but elevation. So, laugh not because life is easy, but because you are strong. Because laughter is proof that the spirit still breathes. Because in a world full of tension, your smile is stoic resistance. Connect with nature. In a time where glowing screens have replaced starry skies, and concrete paths have overtaken dirt trails, we must ask ourselves, what have we lost in our separation from nature? We scroll endlessly through curated images of forests and oceans, yet rarely step outside to feel the wind on our face or listen to the birdsong in the trees. In this disconnection lies a silent wound and aching dissonance between who we are and how we live. The Stoics, thousands of years ago, understood something we are only beginning to rediscover. That nature is not merely the backdrop of our lives, it is our teacher, our mirror, our guide, to live according to nature. As the Stoics believed, was to live in alignment with both the natural world and our own true essence. And nowhere is this more healing, more transformative, than in the simple act of reconnecting with the earth beneath our feet. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor of Rome, found wisdom in the patterns of nature. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished, he noted. This quiet truth reminds us that life's rhythm is not found in frantic productivity but in measured presence. The sun does not rush to rise. The rivers do not compete to flow. Everything unfolds in perfect time. And so can we. Yet the modern world seems designed to disrupt this harmony. We spend our days beneath artificial light, isolated from fresh air and organic silence. We wake not to the chirping of birds but to the buzz of smartphones. And this unnatural separation takes a toll in our minds, our spirits, our very biology. Science confirms what ancient wisdom already knew. Immersion in nature, what the Japanese call shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, has been shown to lower cortisol levels, improve heart rate variability, reduce anxiety, and increase overall well-being. These effects aren't subtle, they are profound. Just 20 minutes a day in a green space can restore balance in the nervous system, enhance creativity, and provide a sense of peace that no screen or medication can replicate. But why does nature heal? Because it speaks a language older than words. The rustle of leaves, the dance of light on water, the steady hum of crickets at night, all these rhythms remind us that we are not separate from life but woven into its fabric. Nature requires nothing of us, yet gives abundantly. It asks only that we show up, that we pay attention. For the Stoics, nature also offered perspective. Standing beneath a vast sky or at the edge of a mountain, we are reminded of our smallness not as insignificance, but as freedom. Our problems, magnified by screens and deadlines, shrink against the backdrop of eternity. We see that life goes on, with or without our worries. And this, paradoxically, brings relief. Seneca often advocated for walks in the countryside, not simply for exercise but for clarity of thought. We should take wandering outdoor walks, he said, so that the mind might be nourished and refreshed by the open air and deep breathing. In this practice, the Stoics anticipated what we now call ecotherapy, a return to the natural world to mend what the artificial world has broken. Healing through nature is not a luxury, it is a return to sanity. When we spend time outside, truly outside, we reconnect with something primal. Our bodies remember the feel of soil, the scent of pine, the warmth of sunlight. These sensations ground us in the present, awaken our senses, and calm the chaos within. They teach us to observe rather than judge, to breathe rather than react. And we do not need a forest or ocean to begin. Reconnection starts wherever we are. A tree-lined street, a potted plant, a balcony garden, each offers a doorway back to awareness. The key is intention. Walk without headphones, sit without scrolling, touch the leaves, watch the clouds, listen to the wind. These are not distractions, they are invitations. The Stoics believed in self-discipline, but they also believed in restoration. Nature, in its quiet persistence, models both. It works, but it rests. It grows, but it yields. In nature, there is effort, but never strain. There is purpose, but no anxiety. We, too, can learn this balance by watching, by imitating, by remembering. When the mind is restless and heavy, go to the woods. When the heart is burdened, go to the river. When clarity is lost, go to the mountains. These are not just poetic suggestions, they are practical medicine. In every step on a trail, there is a lesson in forward movement. In every tree that bends with the wind, a model of flexibility. In every sunrise, a reminder that new beginnings come naturally. Marcus Aurelius didn't simply observe nature, he studied it as a guide for human conduct. He wrote, "Adapt yourself to the things among which your lot has been cast, and love sincerely the fellow creatures with whom destiny has ordained that you shall live." This adaptation is not passive, it is active alignment. It is seeing how a stream adapts to stone, how animals cooperate without complaint, how cycles of birth and death coexist without resistance. Nature is indifferent to our egos, yet it welcomes our presence. It is patient with our absence, yet rejoices in our return. And the more time we spend immersed in it, the more we become like it, grounded, patient, resilient. In our digital age, where burnout is normalized and overstimulation is the norm, reconnecting with nature is no longer optional, it is essential. It restores attention, renews empathy, and reminds us of what truly matters. It is where we go not to escape life, but to remember how to live. So take the first step. Step outside, not to be entertained or distracted, but to be awakened. Let your bare feet touch the earth. Let your eyes drink in the green. Let your breath align with the wind. Let nature, the oldest teacher, whisper what you've forgotten. You belong. You always have. But if nature is such a profound healer, why do we so easily forsake it? The answer lies partly in the design of modern life. Cities have been built to maximize efficiency, not serenity. Concrete replaces trees, screens replace stars, and schedules replace silence. While our ancestors rose and rested with the sun, we have severed that natural rhythm with artificial light, 24/7 work culture, and digital dependency. In doing so, we've not only disconnected from the earth, we've disconnected from ourselves. The Stoics would see this disconnection as a fundamental misalignment with the logos, the rational principle that governs the cosmos. To them, everything in nature follows a wise, orderly path. The moon does not race. The river does not hoard. The tree does not envy the sky. When humans break from this rhythm, we suffer not because nature punishes us, but because we abandon our true design. Reconnecting with nature, then, is not a hobby, it is a philosophical realignment. It is the act of returning to what we are, This return is both external and internal. Externally, it involves spending more time outdoors, observing the natural world, and grounding our bodies in real terrain. Internally, it means adopting a mindset that mirrors nature's wisdom, resilience, patience, balance, and adaptability. To deepen this connection, let us explore various natural environments and how each offers a different kind of healing. Forests offer containment. The canopy above shelters us from noise and overstimulation. Here, we feel held by something larger. Mountains teach perspective. As you climb and look down, worries shrink, and your vision expands not just visually, but emotionally. Rivers and oceans mirror flow. Watching water teaches us to release, to adapt, to keep moving without resistance. Deserts show us clarity through emptiness. In their vastness, we confront solitude, silence, and the raw essence of being. Fields and meadows bring softness. These spaces remind us of gentleness, openness, and play. Each natural space becomes a mentor, a metaphor, a mirror. One powerful Stoic practice is walking meditation in nature. As you move slowly through a park, forest, or beach, synchronize your steps with your breath. Observe without judgment. Let thoughts rise and fall like leaves. When your mind wanders, gently bring it back to the sound of your footsteps or the texture of the air. This anchors you not just in the moment but in your body, your breath, your being. Another is contemplative journaling outdoors. Bring a notebook, find a spot beneath a tree. Reflect. What does this landscape teach me today? What quality of nature can I cultivate within myself? Stability like a mountain, surrender like a stream, stillness like the sky? Stoicism and ecology, though millennia apart, share a core insight that we do not stand above the natural world we are embedded in it. Our health, clarity, and moral development depend on this relationship. Let's also consider the role of seasons in Stoic reflection. Spring, with its blooming and renewal, teaches rebirth. Summer reminds us of energy and harvest. Autumn signals letting go, surrender, and simplicity. Winter invites introspection, rest, and endurance. To live in harmony with seasons is to accept that life, too, has cycles of effort and ease, abundance and retreat, visibility and invisibility. In our digital age, where constant productivity is glorified, resting like winter may be the most radical Stoic act of all. Nature also expands our sense of time. In cities, we live by minutes and deadlines. In nature, we feel geological time epochs etched into rock, decades in the growth of trees, eternity in the stars. This stretch softens our urgency. It reminds us that most things are not emergencies. That healing, like all good things, takes time. From a spiritual perspective, nature dissolves ego. It places us in the context of something vast. When standing before the Grand Canyon or beneath a night sky untouched by city lights, we remember our smallness, not to feel insignificant, but to feel sacred. To be humbled is to be healed. The Stoics did not advocate for escapism. Marcus Aurelius wrote from battlefields and throne rooms, not mountaintops. Their wisdom was forged in the heart of difficulty. But nature was always there, in the backdrop, as a source of insight. The wind whispering lessons, the soil rooting resolve. In practical terms, building a nature-connected life does not require moving to a cabin in the woods. It requires attention, Intention. Integration. Here are practical ways to weave nature into your daily life. Natural light mornings. Begin your day by stepping outside, even for a few minutes. Let sunlight regulate your circadian rhythm. Micronature moments. Touch a plant, smell a flower, listen to birdsong. These moments rewire the brain for presence. Outdoor meals. Eat your lunch in a park. Sit on a bench. Let food and nature meet. Seasonal awareness. Mark solstices and equinoxes. Align your goals and reflections with natural rhythms. Earth-based rituals. Walk barefoot. Gaze at the moon. Offer gratitude to the elements. Over time, these practices awaken what many indigenous cultures call ecological consciousness, a felt sense that the earth is not scenery, but kin. When you align your life with nature, you also align with your true nature. You become less reactive, more receptive, less rigid, more fluid, less fearful, more trusting. This is what the Stoics meant by living in accordance with nature. Not simply obeying biology or following trends, but aligning your soul with the deeper order that flows through trees, rivers, and stars. And in that alignment, you rediscover a truth that cannot be taught, only remembered, that you are not lost. You are rooted. You are not separate. You belong. Always have. Be a morning person. There's something quietly powerful about the early morning before the world stirs. Before emails ping and traffic roars. In that soft silence, there is clarity. In the glow of first light, there is promise. To be a morning person is not merely to wake up early, it is to claim the most sacred hours of the day as your own. To begin not with reaction, but with intention. The Stoics understood the value of mornings. Marcus Aurelius, in his timeless meditations, reflected often on the challenge of getting. But why does the morning hold such transformative power? From a physiological standpoint, the early hours are when our minds are clearest. Our cortisol levels, the hormones that help us stay alert, peak naturally. Our decision-making is sharper, our willpower stronger. It is a time when, undistracted by the noise of the day, we can align our thoughts with our purpose. Being a morning person doesn't mean jumping out of bed full of energy, it means rising with purpose. It's not about perfection. It's about creating space to think, reflect, move, and breathe. The Stoics saw this morning stillness not as a luxury, but as a discipline, one that prepared them for the moral and mental challenges ahead. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." In this statement lies the heart of Stoic morning practice. Gratitude, mindfulness, preparedness. And yet, for many people, mornings are rushed and frantic. We wake to alarm clocks in panic, scroll our phones before our feet hit the floor, and sprint into the day without anchoring ourselves. This disoriented state lingers, coloring everything that follows. But imagine beginning instead with slowness, with silence, with sovereignty over your own time. The Stoics would argue that how we begin each day is a reflection of how we live our lives. If we begin with anxiety, we carry it. If we begin with clarity, we radiate it. The morning, then, becomes more than a time slot, it becomes a metaphor for a well-ordered mind. To build a Stoic morning doesn't require grand rituals or dramatic changes. It starts with one simple thing: waking up when you say you will. This builds trust with yourself. It declares, I am in command of my life. From there, you can craft a morning that serves your spirit. Consider these Stoic-aligned morning habits. Silence before stimulation. Resist the urge to check your phone. Instead, sit in stillness. Listen to your breath. Let your mind arrive. Journaling. Marcus Aurelius began his day with reflection. You can too. Write about your goals, your fears, your commitments. This anchors your day in awareness. Movement. The Stoics valued physical strength as part of their virtue. A walk, a stretch, a short workout, these awaken the body and prepare it for action. Reading philosophy. A passage from Seneca or Epictetus can orient your mindset toward courage. Patience, or discipline. Visualization. Stoics practiced premeditatio malorum, visualizing the day's potential challenges. Not to dwell in fear, but to prepare mentally. If you expect discomfort, you won't be defeated by it. Gratitude. Begin with what is already good. What is working? What can you appreciate? This shifts the tone of your day toward abundance. Modern science validates these habits. Morning routines are linked to better mental health, reduced stress, and increased productivity. Morning people often report higher levels of satisfaction and lower rates of depression. Why? Because structure breeds freedom. When you own your mornings, the rest of the day unfolds with greater ease. It's important to address the myth of not being a morning person. While biological differences exist, many people who identify this way are actually responding to habit, not genetics. Sleep hygiene, late night screen time, or regular schedules, these train the body into chaos. But the body can be retrained. With consistency, even the groggiest riser can greet the dawn with calm. And this practice doesn't require perfection. Some mornings you'll oversleep, others will feel heavy. That's okay. The Stoic approach is never about rigidity, it's about resilience. If you fall, rise again. If you stumble, adjust. What matters is the intention. To meet each morning with courage, not complacency. The beauty of the morning lies in its invitation. It is the one time of day not yet shaped by others. Before the world places its demands on you, you have a chance to define your own rhythm. You can set your compass not to the chaos of the world, but to the calm of your own principles. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily of death not as morbidity, but as motivation. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Mornings are a practice in remembering impermanence. We wake, and that itself is a gift. What will we do with it? The modern world praises hustle and multitasking, but the Stoic world praises presence and discipline. To rise early is not to work more, it is to live more consciously. It is to greet the sun not with dread, but with dignity. So begin again. Rise with the sun, or before it. Let the quiet hours be your teacher. Let the morning be your sanctuary. In the stillness of the early light, remember, you are not here to rush, to stress, to chase. You are here to live wisely, deeply, fully. Be a morning person not because it's fashionable, but because it's transformational. Own the dawn, and you begin to own your life. To embrace the morning is to embrace yourself before the world makes its demands. It's not just about beating the sunrise, it's about beating the inner chaos that often stirs with the day's pressures. And for the Stoic, that internal clarity is everything. Let's dig deeper into what makes mornings so transformative biologically, psychologically, and philosophically. From a biological perspective, Mornings are when the brain is at its cleanest. During sleep, the brain undergoes a wash cycle via the glymphatic system, clearing out toxins that accumulate during the day. When you wake up, your mind is like a freshly wiped whiteboard. That's why many creative minds from Beethoven to Maya Angelou reserved their mornings for deep work. The Stoics, without modern science, intuited this. They guarded their mornings as sacred. Psychologically, the early hours offer a unique window of mental quiet. Before the news, notifications, and noise, there's a brief pause-on opportunity to orient your attention inward. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What am I choosing? Mornings are not just a time, they are a mental space. And that space can shape your character. From a Stoic lens, the morning is your first ethical battlefield. Will you meet the day with wisdom or reaction? Will you stumble into habit, or walk with intention? Marcus Aurelius wrestled with this daily. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. This is not motivation fluff. It's a call to rise into your nature. But here's the deeper truth. Becoming a morning person isn't just about waking up early, it's about waking up fully. Waking up to who you are, to what you're capable of, to the fleetingness of time and the permanence of choice. Let's explore practical and philosophical ways to make mornings more stoic and more sacred. Sunrise solitude. Before checking your phone, check in with your soul. Sit in silence. Light a candle. Breathe. Let your inner voice speak before the world drowns it out. Stoic journaling. Begin with prompts. What virtue will I embody today? What challenge might arise? And how can I respond with dignity? If this were my last morning, what would I cherish? Nature connection. Step outside barefoot. Greet the sun. Let light hit your face. This syncs your body clock and grounds your awareness in the present. Cold water ritual. A splash of cold water or a cold shower activates your sympathetic nervous system, boosting alertness. But more than that, it's a symbolic cleansing. A stoic baptism into a new day. Intentional movement. Stretch. Walk. Breathe deeply. The body influences the mind. A strong stance helps cultivate a strong spirit. Reading wisdom. A passage from Epictetus, Seneca, or Marcus. Let ancient truth frame modern chaos. Rehearsal of adversity. Visualize possible irritations, delays, rudeness, fatigue. Meet them now in your mind so they can't surprise you later. The goal is not to have a perfect morning but a present one. Let's also explore the myths that often block people from becoming morning-oriented. I'm just not a morning person. While some natural chronotypes exist, most people can shift their rhythm with consistent queslight. Meal timing, bedtime, identity is malleable. I need 8 hours, no matter what. Quality matters more than quantity. A restful, intentional evening sets up a powerful morning. Don't sacrifice sleep, but also don't confuse oversleeping with rest. There's nothing special about mornings. Then why do monks, artists, CEOs, and sages from all traditions protect them? Because there's a magic in unclaimed stillness that fades by noon. Even the architecture of a stoic day revolves around the morning. Morning is your foundation. A disordered morning leads to scattered decisions. A centered morning leads to sovereign living. As Marcus Aurelius observed, when you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive. This single realization can transform your entire mood. You don't have to feel amazing. You just have to feel present. And what if you fail? What if you sleep in? The Stoic doesn't wallow. He resets. Fall 7 times. Rise 8. What matters is consistency, not perfection. To reinforce this mindset, create morning anchors. Small rituals tied to specific times or cues. Example: wake, drink water with lemon, light incense, 0 deep breaths. Before sunrise, read a passage from Meditations, write intention. After stretch, say aloud, I greet this day with honor, clarity, and courage. These micro practices condition the mind like grooves in a record. Over time, the needle drops into stillness without effort. Let us not forget the emotional layer of mornings. Many people wake with anxiety. The unknowns of the day rush in. This is normal, but it's also a moment of power. The Stoic recognizes anxiety not as weakness, but as information. What is this feeling pointing to? What does it ask me to prepare for? Transform your morning anxiety into morning alchemy. Let the racing thoughts become fuel for presence. Let the discomfort become your doorway. Lastly, remember, you are not building a routine, you are building a life. A life of consciousness. A life of virtue. A life that starts each day not by accident, but by philosophy. To be a morning person is not to dominate the clock, it is to synchronize with your soul. To rise not just from bed, but from unconsciousness. To meet the dawn with dignity. This is the Stoic sunrise. This is your call to rise. Pack your days with plans. In every life, there are two parallel forces constantly at play: chaos and structure. We wake to the unfiltered flood of demands, distractions, and decisions. Our phones buzz, emails pile up, meetings get stacked, and social obligations blur into endless noise. In this flood, the average person does not steer the current, they are swept away by it. But the Stoic is not average. The Stoic understands that time, like life, must be commanded, not passively endured. 2. Pack your days with plans is not merely about busyness. It is not about filling each hour to the brim, nor about racing from one activity to another until exhaustion becomes a badge of honor. It is about intentionality. It is about structuring your time in a way that reflects your principles, supports your goals, and strengthens your inner peace. Seneca, with unwavering clarity, once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." This truth echoes louder now than ever. In a time of hyperconnectivity and perpetual urgency, we are not lacking time, we are leaking it. Hours evaporate in digital spirals, in conversations without depth, in pursuits that serve ego rather than essence. The solution is not to work more. It is to live more deliberately. The Stoics taught that the art of living well depends on knowing what to value. And to value something means to make time for it. Therefore, the way we spend our time is the clearest expression of our philosophy. You can say you believe in growth, in stillness, in love, in truth, but if your days are consumed by triviality, those are just words. The Stoic does not just talk of virtue. He schedules it. Marcus Aurelius, in his asterisk meditations, began each morning by envisioning the day ahead. He would remind himself that challenges would arise, that others might be rude, and that he would need patience. This practice was not pessimism, it was preparation. It was a form of mental clarity that allowed him to engage with life rather than react to it. It was his plan. To plan your day like a Stoic, you begin not with a to-do list, but with a why. Why does this day matter? Who do I want to be in the face of this day? From this reflection, priorities emerge. Some may be tasks, others values, some urgent, others timeless. All are designed not to make you efficient, but to make you aligned. Let's break down the Stoic approach to a well-planned day. Wake with purpose. Begin your day by connecting to your intention. Journaling for 5 minutes can set the tone. What do I want to embody today? Calm, courage, compassion? Plan your blocks. Time is best used in focus. Segment your day into meaningful blocks: deep work, light work, rest, reflection. Don't let your day become an unstructured blur. Guard your attention. Seneca reminds us that time is stolen not in hours, but in moments. Disable notifications, batch distractions. Be ruthless with anything that scatters the mind. Build in pauses. Even the most powerful minds need rest. Walk, breathe, step into silence. A 5-minute pause can restore clarity better than an hour of forced work. Do one thing well. Multitasking is the enemy of meaning. Choose one task at a time. Complete it with excellence. This is how the Stoic creates quality over quantity. Anchor in virtue. Ask not just, what do I need to do, but also, who do I want to be as I do it? Your meetings, emails, chores, they are all opportunities for patience, humility, presence. Close your day with review at day's end. The Stoic reflects. What did I live well? What distracted me? What can I learn? This habit refines life day by day. In this framework, planning is not just strategy, it is spiritual practice. It is the constant recalibration of your life to your values. And while the world may pull you in every direction, your plan anchors you in one. There is profound freedom in structure. This may sound paradoxical, but it's true. When you take ownership of your time, you are no longer enslaved by the world's noise. You choose what enters your calendar. You decide what deserves your energy. You become sovereign in a culture of passivity. But let's be honest, there will be days that fall apart. Days when the plan is broken, when chaos wins, when nothing seems to align. The Stoic does not collapse in defeat. He adapts. Flexibility is not failure. It is wisdom. Planning is not about controlling the world, it's about meeting it prepared. And perhaps more importantly, a Stoic plan is not rigid productivity. It includes time for beauty, time to sit beneath the sky, time to speak with a friend, time to do nothing at all. These are not wasted hours, they are sacred. Seneca himself said, "Leisure without books is death, and burial of a man alive." Even rest, when chosen consciously, becomes an act of the highest living. If you were to view each day as a sacred offering, how would you spend it? If this was your last Tuesday, would you fill it with busyness or with purpose? Would you say yes to everything, or only to what aligns with your deeper self? These are not questions for philosophy class, they are questions for the next 24 hours. And so we return to the wisdom of planning, not as an obsession with efficiency, but as a devotion to depth. Each hour you plan becomes a promise to yourself. Each task completed with integrity becomes a prayer. Each moment guarded from distraction becomes a quiet revolution. In a world that wants you scattered, choosing to live by a plan, your plan is a radical Stoic act. Live your hours the way you wish to live your life, on purpose. And remember, the future is not something you find. It is something you build one well-planned, well-lived day at a time. To plan your day with Stoic intention is to place yourself in the stream of time with dignity, not flailing or drifting, but swimming toward your values. And yet, in modern society, we are drowning in distractions, notifications, social media, emails, endless meetings. The illusion of urgency replaces the clarity of purpose. The Stoics understood this danger even in ancient times. Seneca warned, "People are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy." This statement is truer now than ever before. We lock our doors at night but leave our calendars wide open to chaos. 2. Pack your day with plans is not about obsession with busyness. It's about clarity. It's about sculpting each day into a vessel for meaning, service, and self-mastery. Let's unpack this even further. Every day offers two currencies, time and attention. Both are finite. Both are sacred. The untrained mind spends them on trivia. The trained mind invests them in growth. To live stoically is to treat every hour as a moral choice. Every minute is a message to the self. This is what matters to me. That's why Stoic planning begins not with a calendar app but with reflection. Before the to-do list, ask, who do I want to be today? What virtue will I embody? Wisdom, courage, temperance, justice? What values will guide my tasks? How can I leave this day better than I found it? These questions transform time management into soul management. Here are some Stoic-aligned tools to structure your day. Time blocking by virtue. Instead of categorizing your day by projects or meetings, organize it by intention. For example, clarity and solitude journaling, reading, meditation, focus and creation, deep work on meaningful goals, presence and nourishment, meals, walk, connection, contribution and courage, meetings, service, outreach, recovery and reflection, wind down, prepare, gratitude. This reframes planning as character development. The dying philosopher method. Plan as if it were your last full day alive. Not to be morbid but to sharpen clarity. What conversations would you have? What would you stop postponing? What inner work would take priority? Use this lens once a week to recalibrate your schedule. The interruption buffer. Build 5-minute buffers between tasks. This creates space for breath, review, redirection. In the Stoic mindset, a rushed mind is a reactive mind. Intervals protect wisdom. The deep work window. Identify your 90-minute peak performance zone. For most, it's late morning or early afternoon. Schedule your most important task here. Treat it like a ceremony. No phone, no interruptions, just pure creation. The Seneca shutdown. Each evening, pause for a Stoic shutdown. Review your day. What moments were aligned? Where did you slip? What would you do differently tomorrow? End with forgiveness and intention, not guilt. And remember, your plans must remain flexible. Life happens. Projects shift. Emergencies arise. The Stoic planner does not resist this. Like water, he flows around the stone. Marcus Aurelius offered this insight. Adapt yourself to the life you have been given, and truly love the people with whom destiny has surrounded you. The wise person sees planning not as a rigid blueprint, but as a framework for presence. He plans carefully and adjusts gracefully. Now let's address some of the common mental traps around time. Perfectionism. Waiting for the perfect plan leads to paralysis. The Stoic acts now. He knows clarity comes through action. Overscheduling. Packing too tightly leads to burnout. Leave white space for thought, spontaneity, even wonder. Guilt from wasted time. The Stoic does not dwell in regret. He returns to intention. One mindful moment can redeem an entire scattered morning. Comparison. Your schedule is a reflection of your purpose, not someone else's expectations. Design it for depth, not validation. From a neurological perspective, planning taps into the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for foresight, organization, and moral reasoning. Each time you plan with virtue in mind, you strengthen this faculty. You literally shape your brain towards Stoic discipline. And from a spiritual lens, planning is a prayer. It is your way of saying, I will not let this gift of time pass unnoticed. I will use it to serve something greater. Let's revisit the idea of meaningful urgency. This is not hustle. It's not panic. It's a calm, steady awareness that time is sacred, that life is brief, that death is not morbid. It is a motivator. Seneca again. While we postpone, life speeds by. So let your calendar become your canvas. Not just appointments, but aspirations. Not just reminders, but remembrances. Not just checklists, but character. And when life disrupts your plans, as it surely will, pause. Breathe. Ask, what virtue is needed now? Let that guide your next step. Because in the end, Stoic planning is not about controlling the future. It's about showing up to the present fully, intentionally, wisely. And that is how you pack a day with purpose. Don't quit on what you love. The Stoic path of perseverance and passion. There are moments in life when the journey feels heavy, when the road ahead is shrouded in uncertainty. And the dream that once burned brightly now flickers like a fading ember. In these moments, it is tempting to step back, to let go, to convince ourselves that the path we once cherished no longer matters. But what if the Stoics were right? What if the moment we feel like giving up is the very moment our soul is calling for growth? To the Stoics, perseverance was not optional, it was essential. They saw adversity not as a sign to retreat, but as a signal to rise. The things we love, the callings that stir our spirit, the passions that ignite our mind, these are not coincidences. They are invitations, and to walk away from them at the first sign of resistance is to abandon not just a goal, but a piece of ourselves. Epictetus, a former slave turned philosopher, understood hardship intimately. He wrote, "Difficulties are things that show a person what they are." This quote reveals the Stoic blueprint for endurance. The purpose of pain is not to break us, it is to reveal us. To make visible the strength that lies dormant within. When you commit to something you love, whether it's a creative pursuit, a mission, a career, or a relationship, you will face resistance. Not once, not occasionally, but constantly. The Stoic does not interpret this as failure. He expects it, he prepares for it, he welcomes it as training. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This principle, later immortalized in modern times as the obstacle is the way, is the heart of Stoic perseverance. What blocks us shapes us. What challenges us chisels us. Our greatest progress is often hidden inside the very problems we wish to avoid. But why do we quit the things we love? Often, It is not the work itself but the voice in our head. The one that whispers, "You're not good enough, it's taking too long." No one cares. This voice is not your enemy, but neither is it your guide. The Stoics teach us to challenge this internal narrative. Just because it feels hard does not mean you're on the wrong path. In fact, it may mean you're on the only path worth walking. Quitting is easy. Convincing ourselves that it's not the right time is easy. Letting fear disguise itself as logic is easy. But the Stoic chooses the harder thing when it's the right thing. He endures discomfort in the service of excellence. He persists not for recognition, but for alignment with his values. To not quit on what you love is to say, "This matters to me." Enough to keep showing up. Enough to keep building, even when I'm tired, even when no one is watching. This kind of commitment transforms us. It builds character. It instills depth. It teaches us that mastery is not found in the outcome, but in the effort. Let's get practical. How does one remain committed when the journey feels unbearable? The Stoics offer tools. Clarify your why. Seneca said, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." Know your deeper purpose. Connect to the reason beneath the task. This fuels endurance. Detach from results. The Stoics didn't believe in outcome obsession. You control the input, your effort. Your intention, not the results. Focus on the process, not the prize. Embrace discomfort. Growth hurts. Training is tiring. But every repetition, every failure, every setback, it is refining you. The Stoics called this voluntary hardship. Practicing discomfort makes us anti-fragile. Practice daily discipline. Great things are not built in bursts, they are forged in consistency. Make your craft a habit. Dedicate time to it every day, even in small amounts. Silence the inner critic. The Stoics encouraged rational examination of thought. Is this fear based on truth or just emotion? Challenge your assumptions. Speak to yourself with reason. Seek inspiration. Surround yourself with stories of those who persisted. Seneca, Epictetus, Marcus, they all walked hard roads. Let their words be your fuel. Reflect and adjust. Don't confuse persistence with rigidity. Reflect regularly. Are you aligned with your values? If the path needs adjustment, adjust it, but don't abandon it without reason. The journey of not quitting is not linear. There will be relapses. There will be low points. But each time you return, each time you choose to show up, you reaffirm who you are. And that, to the Stoic, is the true mark of strength. Loving something doesn't mean it will be easy. In fact, the things we love most often demand the most from us. But in that demand is an invitation to grow, not just in skill, but in soul. The Stoics viewed love and labor as intertwined. What you love, you tend to. What you tend to, you transform. Let's not mistake ease for alignment. The right path is not the one with no obstacles, it's the one you're willing to walk despite them. When you choose to stay the course, even when the wind howls and the ground shakes, you build resilience not only in your actions, but in your identity. So when you feel like quitting, pause. Ask yourself, is this resistance or realignment? Is this fatigue or fear? Give yourself space to reflect, but not to run. The Stoic knows. Walking away from something hard is not the same as walking towards something better. We live in a culture that glorifies quick wins and fast fame. But the Stoic plays the long game. He understands that what is built slowly lasts. That character is carved through effort. That meaning is forged in fire. You don't have to move fast. You just have to keep moving. Day by day, word by word, brick by brick. That's how empires are built, not overnight, but over time. And remember, the flame of what you love may flicker, but it doesn't die unless you stop feeding it. Stoke it gently. Protect it fiercely. Return to it daily. Let it light your way through the dark. In the end, to not quit on what you love is not just about success, it's about staying true. It's about honoring the spark within you, the dream you once dared to name. It's about meeting your potential halfway and saying, "I'm here, I won't leave." That is Stoic perseverance. That is love in action. Go for kindness, Stoic strength in compassion. In a world often driven by competition, ego, and the illusion of separateness, kindness can appear to be a fragile or even naive virtue. We're taught to hustle, to guard ourselves, to assert dominance in conversations and careers. And yet, in the teachings of the Stoics, men known for their unshakable inner strength, kindness was seen not as a weakness, but as a profound form of power. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's greatest Stoic philosophers and emperor of Rome, once wrote, "Kindness is invincible," coming from a man who held the fate of nations in his hands. These words are not hollow sentiment. They reflect a deep truth. Kindness, when rooted in strength and principle, is one of the most courageous and transformative forces a human can wield. To be kind is not to be passive. It is to be deliberate in your goodness. It is to choose calm over conflict, patience over impulse, understanding over ego. And in a society that too often confuses cruelty with confidence, choosing kindness is an act of rebellion. The Stoic pursuit was always virtue's highest expression of human excellence. And among the four cardinal virtues of Stoicism, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, kindness flows through them all. Wisdom without kindness is arrogance. Courage without kindness is brutality. Justice without kindness is oppression. Temperance without kindness is detachment. Kindness, therefore, is not separate from virtue, it is its soul. But why does kindness require strength? Because true kindness exists not in the absence of conflict, but in the presence of it. It's easy to be nice when everything is going your way. It's much harder to respond with grace when someone is rude, when expectations aren't met, when you feel misunderstood or betrayed. In those moments, the impulse is to strike back, to assert superiority, to protect your pride. The Stoic does not deny this impulse, but he overrides it. Kindness is the ability to see others clearly, even when they are acting from their own pain or ignorance. It is the ability to choose your response, rather than being ruled by reaction. Epictetus taught that we are not disturbed by events, but by our opinions of them. Kindness is the expression of this wisdom in action. It's the moment when you see that the angry customer, the passive-aggressive coworker, or the impatient driver is a fellow human being, struggling just like you. Modern science supports the power of kindness. Studies show that acts of kindness release oxytocin, love hormone, which reduces blood pressure and strengthens the heart. Kindness boosts serotonin and dopamine, improving mood and enhancing well-being. Remarkably, even witnessing kindness, without being directly involved, activates the brain's reward system. We are, quite literally, wired for it. Kindness also creates ripple effects. A single act can inspire dozens more, spreading through workplaces, families, even strangers on the street. Researchers call this the contagion effect. From a Stoic standpoint, this is living in accordance with nature, contributing to the well-being of the whole, not just the self. But let's be clear, kindness is not about being liked. It's not about approval or people-pleasing. The Stoic is kind because it's the right thing to do, not because it's reciprocated. Seneca wrote, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." That includes those who disagree with you, those who disappoint you, even those who offend you. To live stoically is to rise above the pettiness of everyday irritation. It's to recognize that other people's behavior does not have to control your own. When someone wrongs you, kindness becomes your shield. It keeps your dignity intact. It protects your peace. It frees you from the exhausting cycle of retaliation. This does not mean tolerating abuse or sacrificing boundaries. Stoic kindness is firm. It knows how to say no. It knows when to walk away. But it does so without malice. It draws its lines with compassion, not contempt. So how do we practice Stoic kindness in daily life? Here are some simple, powerful ways. Pause before you react. That 1-second pause is your superpower. In that space, choose to respond with clarity, not emotion. Practice active listening. People are not problems to solve, they are stories to hear. Listen not just to reply, but to understand. Be generous with small things. A compliment, a door held open, a message of encouragement. These things cost nothing and can mean everything. Release grudges quickly. As Marcus Aurelius said, the best revenge is to be unlike him who did the injury. Lead with patience, especially when others are not. Your calm can diffuse conflict before it begins. Use your words to uplift. Speak less of faults and more of potential. Be the voice someone remembers when the world grows loud. Show up for others, even quietly. A gesture, a kind act behind the scenes. Kindness doesn't need an audience. In living this way, you become a source of stability in an unstable world. You model integrity in a culture obsessed with performance. You remind others, silently, that there is another way to live, one grounded in strength and kindness. The Stoic view of humanity was not cynical, it was compassionate. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Men exist for the sake of one another. Teach them then or bear with them." This is not resignation. It is maturity. It is the understanding that people will fail, falter, frustrate, and yet, we can still choose empathy. Kindness is a discipline. It's not always easy. Some days, it will feel like weakness. But over time, you'll see it for what it really is. The quiet courage to meet the world as it is, while still holding onto your humanity. In a time when outrage is monetized and division is profitable, kindness is revolutionary. To go for kindness is to go against the current. It is to say, I will not let the world harden me. I will not let fear dictate my tone. I will respond with love, not because it's easy, but because it's powerful. This is not softness, it is Stoic strength. So the next time you are faced with conflict or insult, remember, you are not here to match the world's noise. You are here to echo something deeper. Go for kindness, again, and again, and again. Say yes more often, a Stoic embrace of growth and opportunity. In a world full of unpredictability, it is natural to gravitate toward what feels safe, familiar, and within control. We hesitate at the edge of opportunity. Unsure whether to leap, we analyze, calculate, hesitate, and in doing so, We often miss the quiet invitations that life places before us. But what if, instead of retreating, we leaned in? What if we said yes more often, not recklessly, but with intention and courage? To the modern mind, saying yes is often linked with overcommitment or burnout. We are told to guard our time, to say no to things that don't serve us. And while boundaries are important, the Stoics remind us that growth does not come from staying where it is comfortable. It comes from stepping forward into the unknown. The Stoic path is one of courage, openness, and adaptability. While we often think of Stoics as guarded or reserved, their writings tell a different story, a story of engagement with life. Seneca wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare, it is because we do not dare that they are difficult." The implication is clear. Many of our limitations are self-imposed. When we say no too often, especially to experiences, people, and growthways, shrink our world. Saying yes in the Stoic sense is not about reckless abandon. It is about choosing life, choosing experience, choosing the discomfort that stretches you. The Stoic does not seek comfort, seeks transformation. And every invitation to grow begins with a choice. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that life is short and fragile. You could leave life right now. He wrote, "Let that determine what you do and say and think." This kind of awareness doesn't breed fear, it breeds appreciation. When you remember the impermanence of things, you are more likely to say yes to the moment, to that conversation, to that project, to that adventure, because you understand that each yes could be the beginning of something extraordinary. So why do we say no so often? Fear. Fear of failure. Fear of judgment. Fear of the unknown. We are conditioned to avoid risk, to favor predictability. But the Stoics would challenge this. They would say, what are you really risking? Discomfort? Embarrassment? Temporary confusion? These are not dangers to be avoided, they are weights to be lifted. Every time you say yes to something slightly beyond your comfort zone, you expand your capacity. You create new pathways in the brain. You gather new experiences that feed wisdom. And over time, these choices compound into confidence, resilience, and presence. Let's explore what saying yes might look like in a Stoic-informed life. Say yes to vulnerability. Open the heart, even when it feels safer to close it. Say yes to honest conversations, to admitting you don't know, to asking for help. Say yes to discomfort. Take the cold shower, speak on stage, go for the job you feel underqualified for. Growth is not born in comfort, it is born in friction. Say yes to people, not everyone, but the right ones. Say yes to mentorship, to friendship, to love. Stoicism is not solitary, it values community. We grow in relation to others. Say yes to change. Life is movement. What worked yesterday may not work tomorrow. Say yes to evolution. Adaptability is wisdom in motion. Say yes to silence. Sometimes saying yes means turning inward, to journaling, to reflection, to meditation. The inner world is vast and rich, but only if we enter it. Say yes to adventure. Travel. Try new foods. Take a different route home. These small shifts create neural freshness. They wake up the soul. Stoic resilience is not a wall, it is a doorway. It's the willingness to face life fully, not avoid it. The Stoic does not hide behind routine. He welcomes the unfamiliar, because he knows he is strong enough to meet it. But how do we say yes more often without burning out or becoming scattered? The key lies in discernment. Not every yes is equal. A Stoic yes is not an impulsive agreement, it is a conscious commitment. It is a choice that aligns with your values, your vision, your deeper self. Ask yourself, does this stretch me? Does it align with who I want to become? Will I regret not trying? These are Stoic questions. They lead to yeses that matter. Saying yes more often also heals our relationship with fear. We begin to realize that most fears are shadows. They look big from a distance, but dissolve when we move toward them. The Stoic learns that courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. And the only way to master it is to engage. The world is full of doors. Some we wait for others to open. Some we knock on timidly. But others require that we simply say yes and step through. That we trust the process. That we allow the unfolding. That we walk with faith, even if the path is unclear. This doesn't mean abandoning caution or self-awareness. It means honoring your aliveness. The Stoics believed that life is not measured in years, but in depth, in presence, in how often we said yes to the moment instead of hiding from it. Let's take this a step deeper. Every yes is a dialogue with the unknown. When you say yes, you say, I am willing to meet whatever comes. This willingness is powerful. It cultivates humility, flexibility, and maturity. You are no longer rigid. You become responsive, like nature itself, fluid, adaptive, strong. Imagine a life where you said yes more often. To opportunities, to challenges, to people, to yourself. Not without thought but without fear. How rich would your experience be? How much wisdom would you accumulate? How many regrets would quietly disappear? The Stoic doesn't fear regret because he lives fully. He does not need permission to participate in life. He grants it to himself. So begin today. Say yes to something you've been putting off. A call, a challenge, a risk. Do it not for the outcome, but for the becoming. Say yes to the life that's waiting for you on the other side of fear. Say yes because the future is not guaranteed. Say yes because you can. Say yes because you are alive. Turn off your phone, sometimes reclaiming presence in a distracted world. In an age where the average person checks their phone hundreds of times a day. Where attention is a currency constantly extracted by algorithms. And where the hum of notifications never quite leaves the background. One of the most radical and stoic things you can do is simple. Turn off your phone. This isn't just about screen time. It's about sovereignty. It's about reclaiming your attention on your most sacred resource from a world that constantly seeks to fragment it. The Stoics, who lived centuries before the invention of electricity, already warned us about distractions. Seneca wrote, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." Even then, he recognized that divided attention creates a divided self. Today, that division is more pronounced than ever. Our devices, for all their utility, are portals of constant interruption. They blur the lines between work and rest, solitude and stimulation, real connection and digital noise. And in that blur, we lose something profound: presence. Presence is where life happens. It's where we meet others, where we meet ourselves, where we meet reality. And yet, the moment we feel uncomfortable, bored, or uncertain, we reach for our phones. Like a reflex, like a shield, like a way to escape the moment instead of entering it. The Stoic approach would be the opposite. Lean in. Feel the boredom. Sit with the silence. Engage the discomfort, because within it lies clarity, growth, Truth. Turning off your phone even for a short while is not rejection of modernity. It is the embrace of mindfulness. It is a decision to engage with your environment rather than numb to it. It is a practice in self-mastery, the very thing the Stoics prized above all. Epictetus taught that freedom begins with control over our desires. In our context, that desire might be the need for constant stimulation, validation, or distraction. Every time you resist that urge to check your device, you are strengthening the muscle of discipline. You are reclaiming your capacity for focus. Modern science supports this. Studies show that frequent phone use leads to cognitive overload, attention fatigue, and reduced empathy. The more we scroll, the less we think deeply. The more we check for updates, the more anxious we become. Notifications hijack the brain's reward system, creating cycles of addiction that mimic those of gambling. Yet unlike a slot machine, your phone never closes. It's always the recalling you away from the present. But imagine, even just for an hour, choosing silence, choosing stillness, choosing to be with yourself and the world around you. The Stoics practiced what we might now call digital detox. Not because they had to, but because they knew the mind needed space. Marcus Aurelius spent each morning in quiet reflection before facing the duties of the empire. That space allowed him to think clearly, to act wisely, to live justly. What is our morning routine today? A screen? A scroll? A flood of headlines? To turn off your phone is to turn on your awareness. To notice the shape of the clouds, the tone in someone's voice, the temperature of your own breath. These details, once lost, become sacred again. Life becomes vivid not because it changed but because you became available to it. So how do we begin? How do we apply this Stoic principle in a digital age? Start small. Turn off your phone for the first 30 minutes after waking. Let your mind wake naturally before the world enters. Schedule no phone hours, mealtime, evening walks, conversations with loved ones. Protect these moments like rituals. Create phone-free zones, bedrooms, desks, sacred spaces, not as restriction, but as invitation to deeper presence. Replace with presence. Every time you would scroll, choose an alternative: journaling, reading, stretching, eye contact. Notice the impulse. When you reach for your phone without thinking, pause. Ask why. This is where awareness begins. Use technology consciously. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Use grayscale to reduce addictive colors. Move apps off the home screen. These aren't just habits, they're declarations. Each one says, I choose to be here. And it's not just about focus. It's about connection. We've all seen it. A table of friends, each lost in their own screen. A parent scrolling while their child waits for attention. A sunset, missed entirely because it wasn't captured. Stoicism teaches us to value what I see and to be present for it. To be fully present is an act of reverence. It is a way of honoring life, of saying, this moment matters. When we're constantly online, we forget this. We mistake information for insight, communication for communion, activity for aliveness. But the Stoic is different. The Stoic knows that time is short, that attention is precious, that life is not lived in headlines or highlights, but in the unfiltered now. When you turn off your phone, you turn towards something far more powerful, reality. You feel your own thoughts again. You remember what it's like to be bored and why boredom births creativity. You notice the people around you, not their curated versions, but their realness, their breath, their laughter, their humanity. And you also notice yourself, your inner world, your fears, hopes, longings, the things that often go unheard in the noise of notifications. This is not a call to abandon technology. The Stoic is not anti-progress, but he is pro-awareness. He uses tools with intention, not the other way around. So turn it off, for 10 minutes, for an hour, for a day, not as punishment, but as a gift, the gift of your full attention, the gift of stillness, the gift of coming home to yourself. You will find that the world does not end, that you don't miss as much as you feared, that the silence, once uncomfortable, becomes sacred, and in that silence, you'll discover what the Stoics always knew. That wisdom lives not in the scroll, but in the stillness. That presence is the highest form of power. And that sometimes, the best way to be connected is to disconnect. Take breaks and go on trips. The Stoic case for rest and renewal. We live in a culture that equates rest with laziness and glorifies exhaustion as a badge of honor. In the race for productivity, hustle, and relentless improvement, the concept of slowing down is often dismissed, if not outright ridiculed. But the Stoics knew better. They recognized what modern science has only recently confirmed. Rest is not a retreat from life. It is what allows us to live it fully. To take a break, to step away from routine, to go on a trip not as escape but as enrichment, is a Stoic practice of the highest order. Marcus Aurelius himself, despite carrying the weight of an empire, wrote frequently about the need for retreat, not to flee responsibility, but to return to it with clarity. People look for retreats for themselves in the country, by the sea, in the mountains. He observed, "You are very much in the habit of yearning for such things. But this is entirely the mark of the most common sort of men. When it is possible to retreat into yourself anytime you like." The Stoic idea of rest is not external, it is internal. It is the pause between action and reaction. It is the space where wisdom is born. But sometimes, that pause must take physical form. A walk in the woods, a quiet weekend away, a moment on a bench with no agenda. These are not luxuries, they are necessities for a well-lived life. In ancient Rome, the concept of otium was sacred. Far from idleness, it meant noble leisure time used for personal development, contemplation, and deeper thought. Seneca, in his letters, spoke at length about how time away from the demands of daily life was crucial for the cultivation of virtue and philosophy. In our modern world, we desperately need this return to noble leisure. Most of us are operating in constant on mode, hyperstimulated, overloaded, sleep-deprived. The irony is that even our vacations are often packed with activity. We do relaxation the same way we do work, intensely, competitively, and without pause. But true restoration doesn't come from merely changing your location. It comes from changing your relationship with time. It comes from permission, granting yourself the space to do less, to think more, to feel deeply. And this is where Stoicism offers profound guidance. Taking breaks is not about doing nothing. It's about doing something differently. Something that aligns your body, your mind, and your soul. It's stepping off the wheel long enough to remember why you're spinning it in the first place. Here are ways to cultivate Stoic rest in a noisy world. Schedule white space. Don't just manage time, create space. Blocks in your calendar with no obligation. This is where reflection lives. Honor the natural rhythms. Like seasons, we need cycles, work and recovery. Focus and stillness. Listen to your energy. Respect its rise and fall. Take slow walks, not to burn calories, but to open awareness, as Marcus Aurelius would do. Walk in silence. Let your thoughts wander like the path. Travel for expansion, not escape. Go to new places not to forget life, but to remember it. Let the world remind you how vast and rich it is. Unplug fully, even for a day. Let go of the need to respond, perform, or scroll. Be human, undisturbed. Read philosophy. Bring Seneca to the beach. Let Epictetus sit with you in a mountain cabin. Let their wisdom seep in slowly. Be present in rest. Don't numb out. Tune in. Feel your breath. Watch the sunset. Listen to the wind. These are real things, not content. Let rest deepen your purpose. Use the stillness to realign. Are you living in accordance with your values? What's calling to you? What needs releasing? The power of rest is not in the pause itself, but in what it allows afterward. A rested mind sees more clearly. A rested heart loves more generously. A rested body acts more purposefully. This is why the Stoics, masters of discipline, were also advocates for deep rest. And what of trips? The Stoics didn't travel to post pictures or collect passport stamps. They traveled to witness nature, to encounter new perspectives, to remember their place in the world. Marcus wrote often of the cosmos, stars, the ocean, the great expanse. These weren't just poetic musings, they were meditations on humility. When you stand on a mountaintop, when you gaze at the sea, when you walk a foreign street alone, you are reminded, you are small, but not insignificant. You are fleeting, but also part of something enduring. This realization is not depressing, it is liberating. It frees you from ego. It reconnects you to essence. Even a short trip, taken mindfully, can restore the soul. It removes you from the web of habitual thinking. It places you in a new story. It lets you listen again to your surroundings, your heart, your intuition. And when you return different, wiser, softer, sharper, more you. The world doesn't reward rest. It won't clap for your boundaries or praise your pauses. But Stoicism reminds you, you are not here to meet the world's expectations. You are here to live with virtue, clarity, and joy. So take the break, book the trip, sit in the stillness, not because you're tired but because you're ready to be fully alive again. That is not weakness, that is wisdom. Hang out with friends and family, the Stoic value of deep human connection. In a world that increasingly values independence, self-sufficiency, and digital connection over in-person intimacy, the act of spending quality time with friends and family has taken a backseat. We convince ourselves that we are too busy. We say, I'll call them later, or we'll catch up next week. But the weeks stretch into months, and the months into years. The Stoics, however, knew something we often forget, that relationships are not optional accessories in life, they are its very essence. The Stoic philosophers believed that we are not isolated beings, but deeply relational creatures. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Men exist for the sake of one another. Teach them then or bear with them." This sentiment is more than moral advice, it's a reflection of Stoic metaphysics. We are part of a whole, a shared human community. Our virtues do not exist in a vacuum, they manifest in how we treat others. Spending time with those we care about is not just emotionally nourishing, it is philosophically vital. It grounds us. It reminds us of our values. It reflects back to us who we are. In conversations with family, we practice patience. In laughter with friends, we rediscover joy. In silence together, we find peace. The longest-running study on human happiness, conducted by Harvard University, found that close relationships more than money, fame, or even health are the strongest predictors of long-term happiness and fulfillment. That's not an accident. We are wired for connection. And the Stoics, often mistakenly thought of as emotionally distant, were deeply attuned to this truth. Seneca, in his letters, often wrote about the importance of friendship, one of the most beautiful qualities of true friendship. He said, is to understand and to be understood. To him, a true friend was not merely someone to spend time with, but someone with whom one could grow in virtue. Friendship was a space of mutual elevation, a mirror, a compass, and a companion on the path of self-mastery. In our modern age, the challenge is not a lack of people, but a lack of presence. We are more connected than ever before, yet lonelier. We have thousands of online contacts, but fewer meaningful conversations. We check in, but we don't truly show up. To hang out with friends and family in the Stoic way is to do so with intention. It is to be present, not distracted. It is to listen, not just hear. It is to share not just updates, but emotions. This kind of connection is not always flashy, but it is always deep. Here are ways to approach relationships the Stoic way. Be present. When you're with someone, be with them. Put down the phone. Make eye contact. Listen fully. Your attention is the greatest gift you can give. Practice patience. No relationship is without frustration. The Stoic doesn't expect perfection. He meets others with understanding. Lead with virtue. Be the kind of friend or family member you want others to be. Kind, honest, reliable, encouraging, initiate. Don't wait for others to reach out. Be the one who calls, who visits, who says, I was thinking about you. Value time. Treat time with loved ones as sacred. Guard it. Schedule it. Make it a priority, not an afterthought. Resolve conflicts gently. The Stoic avoids unnecessary quarrels. Speak calmly. Seek to understand. Don't let ego fracture connection. Celebrate others. Be generous in praise. Show appreciation. Let people know they matter, not just in grand gestures, but in everyday affirmations. Family, too, is a profound arena for Stoic practice. With family, we face the full spectrum of emotions: love, frustration, pride, disappointment, gratitude. These are not signs of disorder, they are signs of depth. Stoicism does not demand detachment from those we love. It demands that we love them wisely. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that people would act selfishly, rudely, or irrationally, and that his job was not to be like them. With family, this is a daily lesson. To love someone does not mean to approve of everything they do. It means to see them clearly, and to respond with virtue. That is the Stoic way. And what of time? The Stoics were acutely aware of mortality. You could leave life right now. Marcus wrote, this wasn't pessimism, it was perspective. Every conversation could be your last. Every shared meal, a final memory, not to frighten you, but to awaken you. To make you cherish the people in your life while you still can. How often do we take these moments for granted? The Sunday dinners, the long phone calls, the quiet nights at home. We assume there will be more, but the Stoic does not make assumptions. He lives fully now. He says the thing now. He forgives now. He loves now. In practice, Stoic relationships are not grand performances, they are quiet, steady investments, a text sent with sincerity, a favor done without expectation, a walk taken in silence, a consistent presence through seasons of life. These are the fibers that weave enduring connection. And yes, relationships can be hard. People change. People hurt each other. But the Stoic doesn't give up easily. He understands that relationships, like character, are forged in fire. They require patience, humility, and resilience. They are the ultimate arena for practicing everything the Stoics taught. So hang out with your friends, visit your parents, call your siblings, make plan 7 simple ones, not because it's convenient, but because it's right. Let the people you love feel your love, not through theory, but through time. That is Stoic wisdom. That is a life well lived. Help others out, the Stoic art of service and significance. In a world where personal gain is often prioritized over collective good, the simple act of helping others can feel radical. We live in a time that glorifies independence, competition, and self-optimization, and yet, the Stoics taught us that a meaningful life is never lived for oneself alone. True fulfillment, they believed, is rooted in service, in the quiet, often unseen acts of helping others carry their burdens, lighten their load, and remember their worth. Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the most powerful man of his time, wrote, "What is not good for the beehive is not good for the bee." This wasn't poetic metaphor, it was Stoic truth. We are all part of a greater whole, and to thrive as individuals, we must care for that whole. Helping others is not charity. It is wisdom in action. The Stoic view of service is not performative or self-congratulatory. It's not about status, recognition, or applause. It is a fundamental expression of virtue. When we help others, we embody the Stoic ideals of justice, wisdom, and kindness. We step outside of ego and into alignment with something larger than ourselves. Helping others doesn't require wealth, status, or perfection. It requires presence. It requires noticing. Sometimes, helping someone means listening without judgment. Other times, it means offering time, skill, encouragement, or simply kindness in a moment of need. The smallest gestures, when done with sincerity, carry the greatest weight. Seneca believed that generosity was one of the highest expressions of Stoic virtue. Wherever there is a human being, he wrote, there is an opportunity for kindness. In helping others, we do not lose energy, we expand it. We remind ourselves that we have something to give, that our lives matter not only in what we achieve, but in how we serve. And science agrees. Studies show that acts of kindness and altruism trigger the release of dopamine, that brain's feel-good chemical. Helping others has been linked to reduced stress, lower blood pressure, and even increased life expectancy. It boosts our sense of purpose and connection. Simply put, when we help others, we help ourselves. But in a world full of needs, where do we begin? The Stoics would say, begin with what is in front of you, with what you can do. They did not believe in waiting for perfect conditions. Don't wait for a good deed to be convenient. Epictetus might have said, do it because it is right. Here are ways to embody Stoic service in daily life. Be available. Sometimes the greatest gift is simply showing up. Be someone others can count on, it always to fix things, but to be present. Listen deeply. Offer your full attention. In a world that rarely listens, your presence becomes healing. Offer without expecting. Give because you can, not because you want something in return. The Stoic finds joy in the act itself. Do the unseen good. Acts of service don't need an audience. Help quietly. Encourage privately. Let your impact be felt, not flaunted. Support growth. Helping doesn't always mean rescuing. It often means empowering others to find their own strength. Use your gifts. You don't need to do everything, just something. What skill, resource, or experience can you offer to someone in need? Help yourself too. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Helping others begins with inner stability. Practice self-care as preparation for service. The Stoics understood that life is unpredictable. Tragedy strikes, hardship visits, but in every circumstance, we have the power to help someone else. Even in small ways, a kind word, a shared meal, a ride, a recommendation, a smile. These acts are not separate from philosophy, they are the embodiment of it. There's a deep humility in Stoic service. The Stoic knows he is not better than the one he helps. He knows fortune is fleeting. He knows roles reverse. Today you lift, tomorrow you may be lifted. Helping others, then, becomes not a performance of superiority but a practice of solidarity. And yes, sometimes it's inconvenient. Sometimes you'll be tired, or busy, or unsure. But the Stoic doesn't act only when it's easy. He acts because it's right. Because part of living in accordance with nature is recognizing that we are all connected. That no act of goodness is ever wasted. When we help others, we align with the natural order of things. Just as trees share roots. Just as rivers feed oceans. Just as bees serve hives, we serve each other. This is not weakness. It is wisdom. You don't have to volunteer abroad or start a charity. Begin at home. Help your neighbor carry groceries. Mentor someone younger. Encourage a colleague. Forgive a mistake. Offer patience. Hold space. These moments, seemingly small, build a life of immense meaning. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that he was a citizen of the universe. Not a ruler above others, but a participant within the great body of humanity. His decisions, his actions, his service, these were all done with the awareness that every person matters. That dignity is universal. That help, when given with heart, transforms both the giver and the receiver. So help others, not because you have to, but because you can. Because it reminds you who you are. Because it keeps you grounded. Because it brings light into a world that often forgets how to shine. That is Stoicism in action. That is love without noise. That is legacy. Focus on the good stuff. You've got the Stoic key to gratitude and inner wealth. In a world saturated with advertisements, social media feeds, and curated lifestyles, it is easy, almost inevitable, to fall into the trap of comparison. We scroll through highlight reels of other people's lives, and somehow our own, no matter how full, can feel lacking. We become blind to what we already have. Our minds fixate on what's missing, what's next, what's not yet perfect, and in doing so, we overlook the immense treasure already in our possession. But the Stoics had a different lens. To them, true wealth was not found in accumulation, but in appreciation. It was not about having more, but needing less. Seneca, one of Stoicism's greatest minds, wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. That is poor." This is not asceticism, it is wisdom, because the constant craving for more is a prison we build around ourselves. And gratitude is the key that sets us free. To focus on the good stuff you've got is not to ignore hardship or deny ambition, it's to root yourself in sufficiency before striving for more. It's to anchor your spirit in abundance before you chase improvement. The Stoics understood this as a daily practice. Marcus Aurelius would reflect each morning not only on what could go wrong but also on what was already right. He would give thanks for breath, for clarity, for another chance to live with virtue. This wasn't naive optimism, it was mental training, a recalibration of the heart toward humility and joy. Modern science now echoes this ancient truth. Studies on gratitude show that those who regularly practice thankfulness sleep better, feel more optimistic, have lower stress levels, and experience deeper satisfaction in life. Gratitude rewires the brain for positivity. It turns our attention from scarcity to sufficiency, from pressure to peace. But this shift does not happen automatically, especially in a society that constantly whispers, "You are not enough." Gratitude, like all Stoic virtues, requires deliberate effort. It is not reactive, it is chosen, practiced, protected. So how can we cultivate this Stoic gratitude in daily life? Start your day with awareness. Before checking your phone or diving into tasks, take a moment to reflect. What do I already have that makes this day rich? A roof, a friend, a healthy body, a curious mind. Practice negative visualization. This Stoic technique involves briefly imagining life without something or someone you cherish. This isn't meant to create fear but to deepen appreciation. When we realize how fragile life is, we value it more. Journal your joys. At the end of each day, write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't need to be grand. A good meal, a kind word, a quiet evening. The ordinary is often extraordinary in disguise. Celebrate sufficiency. Remind yourself, I don't need more to feel whole. Right now, I am equipped to live fully. I have enough. I am enough. Resist the comparison trap. If comparison arises, meet it with truth. What I see is not the full story. I honor my own journey. Redirect your gaze inward, not outward. Be vocal about appreciation. Tell people what you value about them. Share your gratitude openly. It multiplies when expressed. Gratitude also transforms how we view adversity. When something goes wrong, we can ask, what is this teaching me? What strength is being revealed in me? What blessings remain untouched by this problem? This perspective does not erase pain, it expands it. It gives it context. It prevents hardship from overshadowing the goodness that coexists with it. To focus on the good stuff you've got is to live with open eyes and a soft heart. It is to see clearly, not just critically. It is to become a steward of your blessings, not a blind consumer of your desires. And the good stuff is everywhere. In the way sunlight spills across your desk, in the laughter of someone you love, in the silence that cradles your thoughts, in the food on your plate, the words on a page, the breath in your lungs. These are not small things. They are life itself. The Stoics weren't minimalists because it was trendy, they were minimalists because they realized that needing less gives you more. More freedom, more peace, more joy. The man who is grateful for water will never be owned by wine. The woman who finds beauty in silence will never be a prisoner of noise. Gratitude also creates resilience. When you've trained your mind to find the good in the present, you're less shaken when things go wrong. You don't crumble at inconvenience. You adapt with grace. You see what remains, not just what's lost. Seneca taught that we should not only count our blessings, but live as if we might lose them, not to foster anxiety but to sharpen presence, to make love more urgent, conversations more sincere, time more sacred. We are surrounded by miracles posing as normalcy. Your heart beats without asking. Your mind dreams without effort. The world turns, rain falls, and flowers bloom without needing your permission. These are not cliches, they are reminders. And when you train your awareness on what you have, something profound happens. You stop needing life to be different in order to feel fulfilled. You find your joy not in the distant someday, but in the quiet now. Gratitude is not a personality trait, it's a practice. It's not something you wait to feel, it's something you choose to cultivate every single day. So, focus on the good stuff you've got, because the world will always try to convince you that you need more. And Stoicism will always remind you that you already have enough. More than enough. Right now. Let go of grudges, the Stoic path to inner liberation. Grudges are silent burdens. They occupy our minds, tighten our hearts, and haunt our thoughts. A single unresolved hurt can echo for years, poisoning our sense of peace. We replay old conversations, imagine different outcomes, and dwell in the injustice of it all. But while resentment feels like a form of protection, it is, in truth, a prison. The Stoics understood this deeply. They saw that the cost of holding on to anger, bitterness, and judgment is paid in the currency of our own freedom. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice." In other words, when someone wrongs you, the most powerful response is to preserve your virtue, not to descend into bitterness. Letting go of grudges is not weakness. It is strength. It is not passive. It is an act of radical self-liberation. The Stoic does not allow others to dictate the state of his inner world. He does not give his peace over to those who have hurt him. He reclaims it, and in doing so, he becomes unshakable. Why do we hold grudges in the first place? Because the ego is wounded. Because we feel that forgiveness means approving what happened. Because we want the other person to suffer, to feel what we felt. But the Stoic knows, harboring resentment does not heal pain, it prolongs it. Grudges are illusions of control. We think that by clinging to the memory of wrong, we can somehow fix the past. But Stoicism teaches acceptance, not resignation, but alignment with what is. What happened, happened. The only power we hold is in how we respond now. Epictetus reminded his students, it is not things that disturb us, but our judgment about them. The offense itself is rarely the root of our suffering. It is our ongoing mental narration, our refusal to release the story that keeps us chained. So how does the Stoic let go? Not with denial, not with spiritual bypassing, but with clear-eyed courage. With a decision that says, I will not carry this anymore. I deserve peace more than I need vindication. Letting go is an act of responsibility. It is choosing freedom over righteousness, growth over grudges. Here are Stoic-inspired steps to letting go. Acknowledge the pain. You cannot release what you refuse to feel. Be honest. What hurt you? Why? What meaning have you attached to it? separate action from person. People act from ignorance, fear, pain. Their behavior does not define your worth, nor should it define your future. Practice perspective. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. Expect imperfection. See it not as personal, but as human. Let go of the need to be right. You can choose peace over being correct. You don't need others to admit they were wrong to move forward. Focus on your own virtue." The Stoic does not aim to control others, only himself. Use the situation to deepen your own patience, clarity, and resilience. Journal the release. Write a letter you'll never send. Pour out the poison, then burn it, bury it, or let it go. Visualize freedom. Imagine your life without this weight. Feel the lightness. Choose it, again and again. Grudges keep us in the past. They cloud our judgment, sap our energy, and block new joy from entering. When we let go, we make space. Space for presence, for laughter, for new beginnings. And this doesn't mean you have to reconcile. Forgiveness is not the same as relationship. You can let go without inviting someone back into your life. Boundaries are part of love. Releasing someone from your grudge does not mean denying their harm, it means refusing to let that harm rule your heart. The Stoic way is not about forgetting, it's about freeing. You remember the lesson, not the pain. You keep the wisdom, not the wound. In a world that clings to outrage and demands vengeance, forgiveness is a rebellion. It is saying, "You may have touched my story, but you will not define it." It is reclaiming your narrative. It is writing the next chapter in your own pen. Marcus Aurelius said, "Don't waste time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Letting go of a grudge is becoming that man or woman. It is embodying the very virtue the world needs more of: mercy, grace, transcendence. This practice is not easy, but it is liberating. And every time you choose to forgive, to release, to step out of the story of harm and into the story of healing, you come home to yourself. So take a breath, name the hurt, and then let it go. Not for them, for you, because you deserve to be free. Thank you for joining this journey toward deeper wisdom and lasting happiness. If you found value here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow the channel for more timeless Stoic insights. Until next time, stay grounded, stay present, and keep rising with purpose.